You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, episode number 258, How to Decide What to Prioritize. Today's episode is for you if you feel like you have a lot of big goals, but you're really far from those big goals. And sometimes you just don't know where to start. And you feel like you might spend a little bit of time on this thing and a little bit of time on that thing, yet you never really see yourself making significant progress because you don't know what to prioritize. And there's only so much time in the week. If this is you, today's episode is something that you're really going to benefit from. Thank you so much to SYL for sponsoring today's episode. This is a really relevant topic for me right now. No surprise, because most of the things I talk about are things that I'm living and I'm experiencing, and I'm trying these practical steps and then sharing what's been really helpful for me. So as you know, I have a baby boy at the time of recording this. He is just about 6 months old. So our life is quite busy, and I have lots of big goals as well that I'm working towards. And recently I felt, just as I described in the beginning of the episode, I felt unsure what to focus on. I felt that I have limited time to work. I'm currently working about 2 days a week, and then occasionally on nap time before Michael wakes up in the morning, after he goes to bed, depending on what needs to be done. So it's definitely limited time. And I felt a little discouraged about the time I had and the goals that I wanted to pursue. And so I was talking to one of my friends about this, and I was telling her how I just didn't know, when I have an hour to work, what should I focus on? I could focus on this. And I had told her what my goals were, and she said, okay, I want you to imagine that you fast forward it a year in your life, and you're looking back and you've accomplished all of these goals. So you have the book deal that you're working on your book. You have a full speaking calendar with your dream speaking engagements, and you're looking back. The question that you want to ask yourself is, what action steps did the past version of me take to get here? And this was so powerful. It was like a light bulb went off in my brain, and I realized that so many of the things I thought were important weren't. So many of the things that I thought I had to spend hours and hours on really didn't matter that much in the scheme of where I was going. But other things really were important. And if I didn't prioritize more time on those things, I would never be able to get there. So for example, I have been feeling like I need to update my bio and change the copy on my website, even though I just did this less than a year ago. We did a whole new website. Yet I've been feeling like, oh, I need to make this change and that change, and just silly stuff that's time consuming and totally unnecessary, because I thought to myself, nowhere in the course of actions that I saw myself taking did I see a slight tweak to my bio helping me land a speaking engagement that I really want to land, or a book deal. Yet me dedicating hours and hours of time every week to working on my book matters. Me dedicating hours every week to connecting with the right people who are hiring speakers for these events that I want to speak at matters. And so I realized that I had this long to-do list of things that I created that were really just a distraction. And it's interesting how we do that. We like to tell ourselves that we're so busy and all of these things are important. But the truth is usually that there are a few things that are very important, and there are many other things that can take up a lot of time and space and energy, but aren't actually that impactful in getting us to achieve our goals. One of my favorite books that you've maybe heard me recommend, but if you haven't read it yet, then this is a sign for you to read it. It's called The One Thing by Gary Keller, and it is just a fantastic book about focus and prioritizing. And that book really taught me that there's really only one really important thing, and everything else really can happen naturally as a result of you going all in on the one thing. And that's something that I really worked on in my business. And that's actually how I built my career as a speaker, because I really focused on it. I didn't get distracted by all of these other things going on. And sometimes the shiny objects do take me out. I can't say that I haven't tried other things or been distracted by other things, but I always come back to my one thing. I always come back to it because I know that my time spent there is getting me to where I want to go. There's another reason that I love this question about what action steps did the past version of you take to get to this place. And the reason is because it really complements a question that you hear a lot in manifestation, which is how can you show up as the person who you want to be today? And it's this concept of acting as if. So you want to think about, okay, where do I want to be in a year, 2 years? So I might say, I want to have a traditional publishing deal with a book launching soon, and I want to have a full speaking calendar, speaking at conferences that I really am excited about. And then I would say to myself, okay, well, how can I act as I'm that person now? So how can I, see myself as the person who has the traditional publishing deal and has, these dream speaking gigs on my calendar? And how do I show up as that person in everyday life? And there are certain concepts behind this principle that really resonate with me. So for example, I may focus on my confidence, and my confidence, especially on sales calls with potential clients that are going to hire me to speak at their events. Because the version of me who has that full calendar is very confident in each of these conversations, right? And so that's one thing I could work on. And I could think of other little things that feel natural and doable and make sense. But I always used to get really stuck on this concept because I would think to myself, well, that version of me wouldn't feel like she needs to fill her calendar with these events because they're already filled. And that version of me would be working on writing the book, not working on her proposal. And I just would get really caught up in the details. But this new question, fast forwarding and looking back on what steps did you take, what details did you implement, it takes all of that confusion away, and it actually gives me a plan of exactly what to focus on. So I hope that this is helpful for you if you've been wondering what to prioritize, where to start, and maybe you too have a little bit of confusion around that manifestation concept. It's a really great way to break it down and make it a little more straightforward, a little more practical, and applicable to the path of really making a plan to achieve your goals. Ultimately, if we have a plan in place and we make progress towards it, we will eventually get there. Even if our plan isn't the right steps, we will learn what the right steps are by taking the wrong steps and those not working and being able to tweak and be flexible. And so it's all about just starting and taking some action. But I don't want to see you move forward 10% in one area, 10% in another area, 10% in another, and then you're depleted when you could move forward 30% in one area and make a really significant change. And when you make a really significant change, you start to feel inspired and motivated to make more change. This actually reminds me of the snowball theory when paying off debt, which is something that I personally used. And so instead of paying off debt that is the highest interest rate, which would be traditional finance knowledge, instead of doing that, you actually pay off debt that is the lowest amount of debt. And then you move on to the higher, second lowest, and then a higher amount, the third lowest, right? And you just go in order. And the reason that this theory works so well is because you create momentum by making such a significant step towards where you want to go. So let's say you have credit card debt, you pay off one of your credit cards, you feel so good. Even if that credit card only had a small balance on it, you're like, wow, I have credit card debt on 3 credit cards and I already paid off one of the cards. That feels really, really positive. So the same thing applies here with prioritizing and getting really focused. You're going to create more momentum. You're going to start to see those results, which then inspire more momentum. I think one of the reasons that we often get discouraged is because we don't see results and we are doing all the things and we see nothing. And we feel like, is this going anywhere? Am I wasting my time, right? And so being able to start to see even just small little twinkles of, hey, I think this might be working, or I think I might be on the right track, makes a huge difference. So I hope this episode is helpful for you in planning out what you're going to prioritize. Journal on that question and know it's a question you can come back to anytime you're feeling overwhelmed with all the different goals, with all the different directions that you can go in. And it also will help you connect to your vision, which helps with visualization and a lot of other powerful tools. So enjoy your journaling, enjoy your thinking on this question. I can't wait to see what you create as a result of it. And thanks so much for tuning into the Spark Your Light podcast, for being a loyal listener, or if you're a new listener, I'm grateful to have you here. And I will mention, if you haven't yet left a review on the podcast, I'd be super, super grateful. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or stars on Spotify. It really helps the show reach more people. And I always say, if this show has helped you at all, then it can help other people too. And so just taking 30 seconds could really make a difference and pay it forward. So thanks so much. Really grateful for each and every one of you. And I will catch you in the next episode.